Hi, Leslie. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Giving a few minutes, just have some people trickle in. The recording started, so and then after we'll just get the show on the road.
Perfect.
Are you able to see the slides? Okay.
Yeah, I can see them.
Okay. Great. Okay. Well, we'll just get started. And thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Faisal Solman. I am the manager of government affairs here at Student Veterans of America. Welcome to season 2, episode 4 of our how-to series this year. This month's topic will be focused on coalition and network building. So we'll get the show on the road and get these slides moving. All right. Just a little agenda breakdown. We're going to give some updates on the Hill, what's going on. We're going to move into our how-to series, and then we have our guest speakers here today from Blue Star Families. All right, what has the GA team been up to? Lots of traveling, honestly. So we are in summer conference season. Last month, we just came back from Florida. We attended the Florida Association of Veterans Educational Specialists. This is where VA provides their annual trainings throughout Florida. The Western equivalent of it actually takes place in Hollywood this year in California. So I will be heading over there next week to do that, give a presentation on SBA. Corey will actually be going to give some remarks as well. We come back from California and then fly right back out to Reno, Nevada for VFW's national convention. So a little cross-country travel here and there. But we do get a break. We have ANVET's national convention later in August, and then to end our summer series of conferences, we ended at the American Legion's national convention in Louisville, Kentucky. Again, if any of you all here today, as well as anyone that may be watching the recordings before then, please reach out if you're attending. I know that we have a lot of VFW members that are also SVA members. Reach out and come say hi. Don't be scared. So on the Hill, there really hasn't been much, at least out of the House Veteran Affairs Committee in terms of meetings or hearings. I know last month I mentioned there was a hearing that was there was an economic opportunity hearing that was supposed to be scheduled on June 25th. However, that was actually postponed. In terms of the other hearings committees, everyone's kind of been on recess, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. There was actually a subcommittee on technology modernization hearing yesterday on the PACT Act and how the implementation of that is going through VA. Tomorrow there's a hearing of the Senate Armed Services Committee focusing on TRICARE's pharmacy program. Doesn't really necessarily relate to us, but is just something, as we all mentioned, it's important to keep track of committee activity for any hearings or markups. If you're in the DC area, attend. If you want to watch the recording, click the links here. It'll take you to it. And most likely, if I have any availability in my schedule, you'll see my head on the background of the panelists. So now, like I mentioned, lots of colors on the screen here. But in August, there really isn't that many. Because that little bit right there is kind of blank. Everyone's on recess. So what exactly does that mean? That means that your member of Congress is not here in DC. They are back home in their district, interacting with constituents. For example, here for July, the first week of July, last week of June, I think I have a key. Nope, I don't have a key. I'll make sure to add a key for the once I send out the slide decks. But the House was in session for 1 week, and then they were off. The Senate wasn't out. The Senate was out of session for 2 weeks, so that means they were back home again, interacting with the members. So for you all as students in your chapters, what does that really mean for you? That means it's your opportunity to reach out to your member's office in the local district. If you guys have any summer events that are going on in your chapters, try to see if you can invite your member of Congress to them. It's a really good opportunity for you to stay engaged with them, what they're doing, and also voice any concerns or opinions you may have that's affecting you or your community. Just kind of moving on to our transition into our coalition network building. I spoke earlier a little bit about you know these summer conferences and why they are so important. These conferences in particular, Faves, Waves, Avico is like the Midwestern version of these SEO trainings. But it's a chance for us at SVA to interact with the many SEOs or school certifying officials, to hear about what's kind of impacting them in their work as they're certifying our students. Also, hear from our students that actually go. I know that at Wave Saves and Avico, they time to time have student volunteers. They come out and they get to help organize the conference, work the tables. But it's also a chance for us as members of SVA to ask them like what's going on. Are they having an impact, and are they having issues on their campus, and just giving us more insight so we can better advocate for them. But it's not just at these conferences where we get to do that. We get to do it at NatCon. We get to do it at Washington Week. We get to do it at the random hearing that happens, and we get to see our other VSO MSO allies. Just yesterday, the Council of Military Transition to Education, also known as CMTE, they're actually in town this week, just talking about what these chapters advisors can do and how they can better support their students. So we had Dartmouth there, we have some members from Columbia, we have some members from Georgia, just all here, just sharing what issues that are impacting them. We also had some members from VA attend as well, and they gave some slides and presentations on like what benefits they can provide to their students and chapters and how they could better support them. This picture over here, this was actually from Faves last month. We had a student panel of 6 students. After Corey gave his main stage remarks, then we did like a little Q&A panel session, just giving them a chance to talk about their story and how they got to where they are. Last 2 months ago now, we had Brona over from our friends at Grow with Google. They came to speak on the amazing partnership that we've had with them. Also hiring heroes, that's why you see the logo in the back. This was part of our leadership and legacy celebration. None of this work, we could do it on our own. We had a Google Roundtable just the other month, kind of finalizing the amazing research our research team is doing, trying to identify the gaps. We had our friends from Howard University as well as Vietnam Veterans of America to come out and just join us and just share the thoughts of what gaps you're seeing here in DC, then also some of the other like states that got to attend. And I still promise you lost. Oh, there's one more. This was a panel I did earlier in the year at NatCon. Leslie, you got to participate in a panel with our VSO MSO like little fun Jeopardy game. I couldn't find that photo, unfortunately. This was my quick rustle of finding a photo at 7 o'clock in the morning. But again, none of this work goes alone. And the reason why I brought Blue Star Families this month to talk is really about they do a great work of coalition and network building. And I honestly don't want to take up too much time from them. And I will just have them introduce themselves. I'm going to stop sharing the slides here. And Jenny and Leslie, I'll have you introduce yourself and we can get the fireside chat rolling.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for inviting us. Here at Blue Star Families, we've really partnered with SVA in a number of different ways since my time here. I'm Jenny Aiken. I came to Blue Star Families in 2018, and fun fact, I came on board because I'm a nerd. I came on as our research contractor. That was my official title, my first job. And I did eventually lead our research team. Blue Star Families is really known for doing quite a bit of research. That was quite a bit of fun doing that. And then I eventually popped over and helped stand up a chief of staff office, first time for our CEO. And then had some incidents happen in my life. I'll come back around to that here in a second. And stepped over. They were like, hey, like, what do you want to do now? And I was like, you know what? We can really do good better, and we can do good better if we do it together. And that sounds really cliche, but it's true. And so I created a new department here at Blue Star Families called Strategic Alliances. And what our job is, and Leslie's on my team, is our portfolio really includes organization to organization alliances. So how can SVA and Blue Star Families work together to do good out in the world and not duplicate programs and that kind of thing? I lead our Do Your Part initiative, which is really focused on changing the way America supports the military. And we're going kind of sector by sector to do that. Because as you guys know, in our community, we try to fix all of our own problems on our own. And the reality is, like, there are a lot of other people who can help fix them for us. So we're trying to help engage and educate and activate those other sector level players who can do that work. And the third part is the White Oak Collaborative, which I'm sure I'll get into here in a sec too. On a personal note, I'm from a long line of service. Most of my family went to West Point. I did not. I went to Carolina, and I'm a big fan, the North Carolina, not my southern neighbors down there. I met my late husband there. We were both majors in peace, war, and defense. If any of you are there, please, please, please go take Wayne Lee's class, the best out there. Amazing, amazing, amazing program. And Cooper was his name, and he ended up going into the Army. He served 11 years in. He was infantry and then Army Special Forces, and unfortunately passed away from a service-connected cancer in 2023. So, but after he passed away, about a year later, I was like, I don't really know if I want to keep doing work in this space. I need to take a sabbatical. We have 2 kids. I just need to take a knee and reassess. And I did. It was the first time really in my life, especially as an Army spouse, and just having lived a career at that point that was like fast moving and doing a lot of it on my own. I took 3 months off for the first time in my life, and it was the best decision I've ever made. And at the end of it, really had to look at, do I come back into this community? And why? What is my reason for doing that? And I decided ultimately, obviously, now that I'm sitting here, to do that. And I did it because of my family's legacy of service. So much of my time initially coming into Blue Star Families and really advocating for the family support system and to fix a lot of the quality of life issues was because I was just angry because I was a military spouse at the time. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This should not be this way. But now I'm out, right? I'm totally disconnected from it. And now I can look at it more from a place of not even carrying on Cooper's legacy, but really continuing this legacy that my whole family has had really since the Revolutionary War. Granted, they were on the wrong side of that war. They were like Hessians, but we won't get into that right now. But this family dynamic is something that's just part of who I am. And so really being able to take all these pieces of my life of living in the seams between all the different worlds and being that bridge and being that gap. So really any of those threads you want to pull on, you are welcome to today. Over to you, Leslie.
Thank you. Always hard to follow, Jenny, but I will do my best. So Leslie Jones, I am the senior manager on our strategic alliances team. I am based down in New Orleans, Louisiana, so I am down south. However, I'm a veteran spouse, but when my husband was active duty, we lived in the great Fort Riley, Kansas. I loved it there. I went to Kansas State. And my kind of educational background is in social work, and I think that it's just so important to kind of highlight that and kind of how it's led throughout my career. I started with the American Red Cross leading veteran and military programs in Kansas, had the opportunity to deploy overseas for about 6 months to Camp Arif John Kuwait with the American Red Cross. So delivering Red Cross messages to service members deployed in theater, running morale programs, things like that was part of my day-to-day there. And then when my husband ETS off of active service, we became a National Guard family and moved back down to Louisiana, which is where we call home today. And my career has taken me in a lot of different directions. Prior to Blue Star Families, I've only been here about 9 months, was at Starbucks Coffee Company and was running veteran and military affairs on their corporate social impact team, supported some Starbucks Foundation disaster relief work for a couple of years, and also worked with our youth partnerships. So if you think of like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, and all of those really kind of stem like from different passion areas that I have, especially if you can, think back to where I started with this thread of social work and kind of like making impact on a large scale. In a lot of these roles, I've had a lot of opportunity to do that. And even though I'm newer to Blue Star Families on staff, I managed the Blue Star Families partnership when I was at Starbucks. And so was really excited to come over to this side of the table and continue that collaboration and that work of, working across sectors with government, corporate, nonprofit agencies to just really make quality of life issues better for military families. And all of the projects and work that Jenny mentioned, I've been working really closely with her on. And so I'm just really happy to be here today to continue to talk about the great work that we do.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Jenny. Would you care to enlighten us all on just like what does the typical day-to-day look like for you? I know there's a lot of like intersecting pieces because of teams, but like what does it look like?
I'll jump in here, Jenny. I think because it kind of starts, it makes sense to start with me, and then Jenny definitely can build on it. Because a lot of what I was brought in to do was like that foundational building. Jenny mentioned that this was a newer department at Blue Star Family Strategic Alliances. Even though it was already really great work that was happening, it just really needs that like foundation to support our Blue Star Family chapters. We have 14 chapters, which are going to be growing over the next several years. And the organization just really identified a need to build out that foundational structure. So my day is really a mix of kind of like strategy and like process building. And I support Jenny a lot with the relationship management side, meeting with nonprofits, meeting with different government agencies to kind of collaborate on initiatives that we are working on in particular. So we kind of, the work sort of ebbs and flows with like what the big project is. However, I would say that the foundation of it is just trying to build better systems for our internal staff and also see that grow into a broader best practice for our whole military and veteran service organization ecosystem, because we all know that there's so many MSOs and VSOs that are doing really great work. But how can we like work together to not, like Jenny said, duplicate services, but be referrals and support for one another?
Yeah, and just I didn't mention this at the beginning, but like the way our organization is structured, I think is really important to where we are and what we're doing day to day. So our mission, right, is to, help military families thrive in whatever community they live in, right? Blue Star Families does a lot of support for military families. That's not where Leslie and I sit for a lot of our work, right? We're really focused on the other part of what I think of as our mission, which is this, like, how do we activate everybody else to be supporting military families? And I mentioned I was on research before, or I led our research team before. So I have this very weird skill set of like, I've been in the space a long time. I know our issues really, really, really well. I know our organization really, really well. So as we scale, like I kind of know where everybody sits and what their history is and all of that. And I love policy. I'm a public administration wonk and really think a lot about how do we make ecosystem level change. And I'm a systems level type thinker. I am not like a how to get in the weeds. How do we do this on a tactical level? And Leslie will tell you that I'm like, if I have to spend a day in the weeds, like I'm not a happy person at the end of it. To build out a process or a technical manual is not the way I think. But I do think in terms of like what are the big high level strategies that we need to take to like really make like big change, right? I'm thinking like 10-year level change, 15 level change. How do we end military hunger? Like, how do we end the military spouse unemployment crisis? How do we help military families feel like they belong? Like, those are really big issues that we want to take over a 10-year time period. So when I think about my day to day, while I'm thinking about these things like on a big level, most of my day is still spent around relationship building. It is with other organizations, in particular, in helping them understand us. And I just want to put a note in here that like it not in like a transactional way. Like 3 minutes of my day easily is spent like texting or emailing people about, hey, I heard this about your health. I heard this about your kid. Great job. Like, I'm so excited for you. I heard you got a new job. Fantastic. I heard you're going somewhere. Like, so excited for you. And I genuinely care. Like, the people in this space are my friends in so many different ways, and they have been there and shown up for me in ways that I can only hope that I'll be able to be there and show up for them as well. And so it is really building the trust that we need as an organization to then really come together and say, hey, you know what? We're going to need to build together. And in order for us to build together, you need to trust me and I need to trust you, because we may be competitors in other parts of our work, but on this, we're going to work together, right? And you need to have that level of both organizational and personal level trust in order to do that. So I really do spend a lot of time trying to do that. Um, I also spend a lot of time, frankly, just like connecting dots. Like, this person doesn't know what that person's doing. So like, how do we make sure that y'all are synced up? And I think that the other big thing I do is, because I'm just a subject matter expert, I'm the only person right now who does our state level policy. So I do spend quite a bit of time doing pro bono technical support, essentially, for state governments. I lead our Deer Park State Initiative right now. And just have a lot of those like strategies, the strategies for not just the how do we build with this one organization, which by the way takes forever to get an MOU in place. How do we build that strategy? But also like, how do we get funding for our program? And how do I build the relationships with the funders so that they want to fund us? And also, how do we get a governor to sign on? We've got 22 governors signed on. How do we get their offices to care enough? Oh, and then by the way, what do we need to get them to do in their state, and how do I give them evidence, right? So it's a lot of that, like, every day is different for me and I love that, but I couldn't do it without Leslie building the foundation for it. And so getting everybody on like a common definition of like, what does it even mean to collaborate? Because if you ask 3 people, you're going to get 5 different answers, right? Do you need an MOU? Maybe we should ask our team. Like, just those kinds of things. What are the procedures for getting approval? Who needs to be signed on, and getting all that buy-in is for our team like one of the most important things. That was a lot.
That sounds great. Just kind of touching, I'm gonna pull on that thread on just like the networking and like building relationships between organizations. Can you talk a little bit about, I feel like this is a good segue, just the White Oak Collaborative here. Could you talk about like why that kind of came about, um, and what its purpose is?
Yeah. And then I want Leslie to get into her relationship building too, because I think especially a lot of the work she did at Starbucks with disaster response in particular was like a really cool way of thinking about collaboration as well. So the White Oak Collaborative, when I came to Blue Star Families, I used to internally joke that it felt like the Knights Templar of the military family space, because I had no idea what it was and nobody could explain it to me. So here's what it is. The White Oak Collaborative is a group of about 140 different organizations that all care about supporting military and veteran connected communities. It is that simple. I'm going to refer to it for the moment as the White Oak Network, because there were some key stages in our development. So the White Oak network, I'm going to call it right now, dates back to 2010. And Blue Star Families and White Oak were kind of like two babies born of similar but different parentage. And they kind of both came into the world. So Blue Star Families started as the Military Family Lifestyle Survey in 2009. It was our first program, and we were not even an organization yet. Then White Oak was everybody who was like, well, we need to do something about what they just found out we learned. So how do we get everybody in the room? And so the first White Oak was really a collection of nonprofits who cared, corporate philanthropy, general philanthropy, and very, very importantly, government leaders. And it was the first time ever in our space that everybody had come together, and it was Chatham House rules. There were 3 topics. It was it was a cultivated invitation list. And that little group met every year, every other year from 2010 to 2020. And it was always like that. It was a retreat. It was 2 days. We're going to lock you in a room. We're going to give you 3 topics. You're just going to figure it out. And then at night, you're going to go drink together and get to know each other on a personal level. And that was what White Oak was. And it worked. And it really led to some of the biggest changes in our entire ecosystem. White Oak led to what is now the Military Interstate Compact for Children. White Oak led to what became Joining Forces. White Oak led to what became Hiring Our Heroes. White Oak led to the blueprint for ending veteran homelessness. So you can draw all of these initial threads to just putting people in a room and telling them to solve a problem and not taking credit for it. And it all being Chatham House rules. And I just think that's really cool. So that group of people really developed a lot of trust for one another. And there were like, basically it would, but it also was very exclusionary by default. So there were really you only wanted like 20 to 40 people in a room. And you only were going to focus on a few different things. And so it felt, I think, for a lot of people, like very us versus them. And are you invited to it? Like this very exclusive club, right? Even if the guest list changed every year. So if you remember, in 2020, we had a pandemic. Turns out we were supposed to be having a White Oak retreat that year. And so the organizers of the retreat came together and essentially said, well, that's not going to work. So what do we do now? We need to like do something about this pandemic. And within 48 hours, that we turned on what became the COVID Military Support Initiative with this group of people who had always been coming to White Oak. Blue Star Families partnered with the Association of Defense Communities and got funding from Booz Allen Hamilton, who had been coming to these retreats. So all of these people had trust with one another. And we turned on this response. And what was the response? It was like everybody already knew what everybody else did. So we all just fell into our lanes. Blue Star Families, I was leading research. I was running continuous polling for 10 weeks, staying up all night, Thursday night, delivering results over to the White House and the DOD and the VA at like 4 a.m. Pacific time. So they'd have it in their inbox Friday morning. Somebody on the East Coast is picking it up and briefing it out at the White House because I'm exhausted and shouldn't be doing that, checking my work. But other organizations were falling into taking that and like moving it through on the policy side. There were organizations picking it up and seeing what we were seeing in hunger, just like going off the charts, and like surging support and like food distribution support and childcare support. And everybody just kind of knew what to do. So at the end of 10 weeks, we were like, oh, well, we didn't really realize we built that. Maybe we should figure out a way to make sure that we now keep all of these new people who are in. So we're doing the polling. We're also doing like regular town halls and information sharing and little subcommittees and all sorts of stuff. So we stood up the White Oak Collaborative coming out of that and said, how do we maintain this infrastructure? And then for the next 5 years, it was just really meeting like every couple of weeks. Everybody would come on, somebody would give a conversation, like multiple people would talk about what they were interested in. And then the government shutdown hit and did the same thing. Surge support, get government speakers in, have ground truth sessions, like what's actually going on right now, who's doing what, let's make sure we have common understanding and information. And that was when really, I took a step back because we were looking at White Oak and really just being like, it's very hard. It's a break-even program. It's not like a money maker for Blue Star families, and it requires a lot of effort and coordination. And I kind of like put my neck out, and so did Kathy. Kathy was like, we will not, Kathy's our CEO. She was like, we will not abandon White Oak. This is too important to like the national security of our country at this point in time. So really, I have to credit Leslie has been able to take on a lot of White Oak this year and has really put together things that initially people didn't want, where I'm like, we really need to have like more tailored conversations so that we can actually see the differences in what we all do, because it's easier to see that when you have contrast and more topical conversations. And I think it's been really well received. We're doing a lot more outreach to our partners. We are really doing a lot more connecting. So like, you need to meet this person and you need to meet that person, and y'all need to, here's what you need to talk about, go forth and do great things. So um you know, I am interested to see where White Oak goes in the future. It's not what you would typically consider to be a collective impact model in the way that it's talked about in like public administration world. It's much more of it's almost like a resiliency capability that exists in our ecosystem. And if you don't know about it, you're missing out, because it really is like this just space where people come. So that's White Oak. And I'm going to tee Leslie up to talk about what she did on the disaster space, because I think it's really interesting in a very different model.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of, like most of us, a lot of the experiences and like things that we build in our career typically stem from personal experiences that we've had. And so, like I said, I'm just from right outside New Orleans. So in 2005, Hurricane Katrina was a really big impact on my life. I was 15 years old. I had a football game one afternoon, and then the next Monday, my high school was completely destroyed, and I was out of school for 4 months. And just like my hometown was truly, truly impacted. And I just saw the amount of partnership that descended on our little town. And obviously, when I was 15 and all this was happening, I didn't think of it in that way. But, we had a church around the corner from our house that we could do a complete loop around and get every single thing our family needed for the next 2 days from every different type of organization, food, laundry, detergent, like all the things that you wouldn't even just, you don't realize you don't have until you don't have it. And so I've always kind of been brought back to that experience about how working together is just so critical to fill a need. And, if we're constantly competing with one another, we're not actually making true impact. We're not actually moving the needle. We're just going back and forth between one another. So when I started leading disaster response for the Starbucks Foundation, we had a lot of great connections to other companies like Walmart, Target, Anheuser-Busch, companies that had much different missions and products and services than we had at Starbucks. However, they had a cool connection to us. So if we think about like Target, there's a Starbucks typically in most Targets. So started having conversations around what we could do more together to kind of like plus up response and support. So if you've ever experienced a natural disaster in an area, usually like that has a Walmart, they do a lot of these kind of like major hub response efforts, like I was referencing earlier, that was at my church, 20 years ago. But and Walmart will bring in like Tide, products and companies that support their organization as a whole to provide a service to fill a need for disaster response victims. So when I was at Starbucks, we were having conversations about what that could look like between Starbucks and Target, as we already have this natural partnership. Even though the partnership is a different level of our business, we can capitalize on that and create our own kind of piece of, or like, bring forward what we offer the community. So if you think about Starbucks, if you don't have power, you could probably go to a Starbucks coffee shop and then plug in your devices. You can apply for FEMA benefits because there's Wi-Fi. Like there is a lot of there's a lot more to a company than just like what people think on the surface level, and what they can offer a community when they're in crisis. And so we started having those conversations with Target, on how we could activate, maybe using their footprint, using their large parking lots, and then kind of plugging in with the services that we provide as a coffee company. When I was at the American Red Cross, one of the big things that we were always told when we were working with a disaster responder is to just hand a bottle of water off to, or a disaster survivor, hand them a bottle of water, because sometimes just having something to hold like grounds them in the moment, and kind of even just, it's a piece of comfort, but it's also something to help ground them. And it's a need that you're filling, even though it seems very, very small and trivial. So if you think about that with a cup of coffee, I mean, coffee is sometimes a luxury for folks. And so we were trying to just kind of fill those needs with the unique thing that our company offered, and partner with other companies to do good better, which I know is what Jenny loves to say as well. So.
No, that's great. Yeah, I remember I grew up in North Carolina, so whenever we would get like a snowstorm or a hurricane, whatever, it's not often, but when it does hit, it's never fun. And I remember this was like 2018 at Carolina, was like my senior year, and it was at that time it was like the record like ice storm that hit. There was no power, classes were canceled for a week. I remember actually going to the Starbucks on campus because I was like, my apartment doesn't have power. This is, or my dorm didn't have power. This is, I gotta get my work done. Classes only, So no, that's a great. Um, and just like just kind of like wrapping up, is there anything from your end, at Blue Star and the wider network, where any like upcoming research initiatives you're trying to push out, any surveys? I know something you mentioned earlier, Jenny, is the military lifestyle family survey. Did I get it right?
So close. Military
Military.
Family Lifestyle Survey.
Oh, darn it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Please take the Military Family Lifestyle Survey. And if I were more prepared, I would have a link to drop to you in the chat to take it right now, but I am not because I was walking off another call. Um, this survey, I can't tell you. I know that everybody has survey fatigue. I know that especially my generation and below, I'll say, which I'm a millennial and below, doesn't particularly love taking surveys, but I gotta tell you, it's really, oh, thank you, Faisal. It is really important, especially as we get into more and more of this AI conversation where people are really just like learning knowledge and how to support people by scraping what's on the internet. We all know what a dumpster fire that is, right? And your voice and your authentic voice really matters now more than ever before. And so it is like a public good and also a selfish good, for you to take surveys. And I would say that there are a handful out there that are just really good ones. Always look for IRB and all of that. Ours is IRB covered. But it really also makes a difference. So we use it, our ecosystem uses it. It has made real change, led to like increases in basic needs allowance. This year, we're really focused on National Guard and Reserve. I know many of you may have transitioned into the Guard or Reserve. This is going to be the first year we have like a whole section that's really focused on you. So we're trying to drive up support there. Coast Guard is going to have a very special section too, because they were hit even worse by the government shutdown this year. Oh man, what were some? There's a couple other issue areas I can't think of, but those are the two big ones, I think, for this group. So yeah, take the survey. And what do we have coming out? We just released military spouse employment research, and we might have some more junior enlisted stuff coming out soon too.
Great. Thank you both so much. I'll definitely be on the lookout, because I mean, National Guard and Reserve parity is one of our SVA's policy priorities. So any more insight to hopefully get that across the finish line one day, ideally sooner rather than later, that'd be great. So thank you so much,
Yeah.
Jenny. Thank you so much, Leslie. And would you be okay? Would you be okay if I provide your contact information in the survey? I'll also put the link to the survey in the slide deck that goes out to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. We appreciate it. And you can add us on LinkedIn too. Just tell me where you met me, because sometimes I get like random people. Um, so please do. Thank you.
All right. Just to finish up the rest of the slide deck. Thank you again, Blue Star family, Jenny and Leslie, for coming out to chat. So just around the corner, we have the VFW SVA Legislative Fellowship coming up. I am muted. Apologize. Thank you again, Leslie and Jenny, for coming out. Blue Star families, great work as always, and we look forward to working with you a little bit more at the rest of the year. Now I'm going to be talking a little bit about the VFW SVA Legislative Fellowship. Applications for this will be opening August 1st. So just a few days away. Make sure you have your alert set via MySVA, check our website, check our socials. Just a little bit, I have a slide here on the eligibility. And then on the next slide, the application requirements. So for the fellowship, you need to be a current or eligible member of the VFW. You need to be enrolled at a college or university during the term of the fellowship. Usually you can prove this via unofficial transcript. And then you also need to have proof of your military service. Make sure you redact your social security number. If you click the link here at the top, it will take you to the page where it also has this there as well with information. Application requirements, 3 to 5 page essay describing the importance of veteran advocacy to you, how you plan on leveraging your network currently to advance your goals, and then how your experience kind of shapes your approach to this fellowship and how you plan to grow from that. A 30 to 60-second video describing your interest in the fellowship, why you want to apply for it, how it aligns with your personal and professional goals, and what you hope to gain and contribute to it. Transcript, as I mentioned earlier, a resume, and then a virtual phone interview with the committee. Next slide. As I mentioned, the last several presentations, Google career certificates, they're free. Apply this, at least click here, submit your contact information. We'll have Chad reach out to you with more information about your account, and then you can start getting these Google professional certificates. And you can use that to boost your resume. I know job market application times are just around the corner with the summer term, so get those out. Lastly, Jenny and Leslie, they talked a little bit about the census on their end. On their survey, we have another one. Again, fill out the 2026 SVA census going on until August. The end of August, if you complete the census, you're entered into a drawing for a $100 gift card. And so far, we give out 3 of them so far. So please fill out the census. The link here at the top, at the bottom, and if you click the picture as well, it will take you there. Lastly, if you have any questions, something that's impacting you or your community, reach out on MySVA on here, fill out your contact information, click the link here to do that. Make sure you click advocacy and then reach out to me or SVA. And if you reach out to Jay or Jason or programming side, if you have something related to SVA, government affairs or impact, they'll redirect it to us. So just please stay in contact. We're always here for you. Share anything on socials. These are social media. But yeah, that's really it for this month's presentation. My contact information is on the screen here. The next date for the Lunch and Learn will be August 18th. Again, 3 to 4 on that Tuesday. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them. Otherwise, we'll end class early, and I will see you all next month. Thank you all, and stay in contact. Bye.